The video clip you're about to see is disturbing. It is acting, and it did not actually happen.
Where's the razor at? And when you're done with that,
Have some more.
hand it to me. I'm ready for it. Oh yeah, like a soldier. Like a soldier.
Just like a big girl.
While most parents would never ever consider giving their young children drugs or alcohol, drug and alcohol abuse by parents always has a damaging effect on kids. This video will examine the damage addiction has on children, as well as the healing properties that recovery has on kids. Its purpose is to motivate you to recover both for yourself as well as the welfare of your kids.
If there was one good thing in me that I wanted to do was to be a good mother. No matter where I was at in my using, no matter where I was at in my life, that was the one thing that I wanted. I knew that they were the one good thing in my life. And I was in a house cooking meth, looking out the window, watching my kids play at my parents' house, and everything inside me wanted to put down the dope and walk out and be a mom. Everything inside me wanted to do that, but I couldn't.
Hi there, my name is Slick. You know me, I'm that voice in your head that convinces you to keep using drugs and alcohol no matter what little problems they may cause. This here is a really bad video. Saul is going to try to suggest to you that sober parents are actually better parents than using parents. And he's going to suggest that, when you use drugs and alcohol, you sometimes do things that hurt your kids. They're just trying to lay a big fat guilt trip on you. I say don't believe it, because if you choose to believe it, it's going to make you want to give up drugs and alcohol, and that's the last thing I think you should do.
The effect on our children of Ben's addiction, basically, he missed a lot of things. They would say, "When's Daddy going to be home?" And I never had an answer. And when he was home, he slept a lot, and so we would say, let's not wake, we won't wake Daddy up, because if we do, he'll be really crabby. And it was kind of tiptoeing, because we didn't want him to be crabby, because then he would leave again.
I always felt like because I was giving them things, buying them things, and they were fed and they had a nice place to live and all those things, I would justify in my mind, I'm a good mom. But at the same time, I was leaving them to go and get high. I was leaving them to go and cook meth. I was leaving them and letting people around them that were not safe. They were in a lot of bad situations and had been involved in a lot of raids at my house. And not only that, I think the biggest part is, I've learned that when you harden yourself, and you have to harden your heart when you're living in that life, you don't get to choose what part stays soft. You don't get to choose, I'm going to still have this love for my kids, because when your heart's hard, it's hard. And you can't choose, I want to love them still. So I could feel that fading away.
My addiction affected my relationship with my children by basically I didn't want anything to do with them. Everything was about me. I would, if they tried to talk to me, I'd just push them off to the side and say go away, or I'd go lock myself in a room and with some meth and just sit and smoke it, or hide in the garage, or just plain wouldn't come home.
This guy had a really good idea. Instead of being high around his kids, he just didn't come home. And that's what you should do. Don't think about giving up drugs and alcohol. Just make the decision that when you get high, you won't come home, so your kids won't see you. That's brilliant.
When I was using, my kids learned not to
mess with Dad too much, because you never know what you're going to get. You may get a happy-go-lucky guy and everything's great, but you may not. You may get the guy that just on a whim just goes off and starts yelling at you. And therefore, they didn't know what ground they stood on. It was unstable ground all the time with them. And that doesn't facilitate a healthy relationship.
My son, I think, was hurting the most because I no longer had the energy to even do stuff with him, to read books with him, to take him to the park, to play games. I just did not have the patience that I needed to take care of him. So I basically just dropped him at my mom's house, and I would be gone for weeks and weeks at a time.
What made me decide to stop using drugs and alcohol is my kids. I mean, even though they was younger, but I know they still had to see us. Not that we use in front of them or anything, but, it's just that the outcome. I know they could tell that by the redness of our eyes, or maybe we might stagger once and twice, and plus the fighting and the cursing.
My addiction affected my son to the point where my mom would tell me that he would wake up in the middle of the night just screaming and hollering for his mom. Because before, when he was born, it was just me and him all the time. I always used to do things with him. I shared a lot of time with him. But when I went off into my addiction, when I got really heavy into my addiction, that was when I just literally walked away from him. And he couldn't understand that. He actually had in his mind that I no longer wanted him, that his mom didn't love him anymore, that he was ugly and he was not deserving of having love. And I found these things out later after I got clean, that he literally a few times wanted to take his life. He contemplated taking his life. So my relationship with him was really affected really, really bad.
This lady said that her drug and alcohol use had a negative effect on her son. But what's really valuable about what she said is that she didn't realize it until later. That's because I was telling her stuff to keep her focused on using and not be terribly concerned about her using's effect on her kids. In this next section, you'll hear a bunch of things I've told other people to keep them focused on using drugs and alcohol and not be terribly concerned about how their drug and alcohol use is affecting their kids.
Slick would tell me that I am the greatest dad ever, that I'm doing everything I should, even though at the time I'm using drugs and alcohol, right? Because that part doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my parenting ability. And so I was the greatest dad ever. I spent time. We had such fun together because I didn't see clearly the way I was damaging them.
Slick liked to tell me that I was a great parent, that I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing, that my kids were just hyper or not behaving right, or it was the other parent's way of dealing with them that was the problem, and it wasn't me.
Slick would help me to ignore my children by telling me that 3 of my kids are stepkids, by telling me they're not really my kids. I didn't have a responsibility for them. I have 2 children of my own. Slick would tell me that my ex-wife left me with and took those kids, so she needs all the responsibility for those kids, so I didn't have to pay attention to them. So I would just do my own thing.
Slick would tell me things like, well, you don't want to be around him because, you're just going to feel bad. And, if you go over to your mom's house, you're not going to be able to get back out because he's going to be holding on to you. And, He's going to be crying and pulling at your leg, and you're not going to leave. So why even go there? You got to go through this thing of seeing him, and then you got to get away from him. He's in a better place. He's with your mom. He's being taken care of, and it's okay because when you get your check once a month, you always make sure that he's got money, and you go and you take him shopping and you take clothes and stuff over to him all the time. So you are basically taking care of him because you bringing him groceries and you're making sure that he's being fed and he's being clothed. So he's okay, but actually he wasn't okay.
Slick would tell me that, you're buying things that have a nice house. You're not running on the weeks that you have them. You're not smoking in front of them. You're not cooking meth in front of them. You're not, just all those things that are trying to, if you're living that life, you're living that life. You can't keep it separate all the time.
Okay, maybe she's right. Maybe you can't hide your drug use from your kids all the time. But that's not a good reason to give up drugs and alcohol. One of the big problems you're going to have if you choose to give up is the kids are not going to be happy right away. There's going to be an adjustment period that's going to make it very difficult for you. And that's a good reason to not even consider giving up drugs and alcohol.
Well, after I sobered up, there was a period of time when my son was angry, and there was a huge adjustment that we both had to go through because he realized I had sobered up, and he used to, a lot of time, play that against me, the lifestyle that I came out of. And when I tried to discipline him, he would always try to make me feel bad for disciplining him, like I was just the worst mom. I literally, for myself, I had to be trained, or I literally trained myself to be a parent all over again. I had to literally train myself to take the patience to read with him, to just lay and just talk with him and find out how was his day. I had to literally train myself to do that. So when I say I had to literally train myself to be a parent all over again, it was just not like, okay, I'm sober and now I'm the mom. No, it was very hard for me because I no longer had the patience to sit and read with him, or to sit and just have a conversation, just me and him.
To see them angry and to see them hurt has been hard. I think the hardest thing is to get them to actually say, I'm angry at you, Mom, for those things, because especially my oldest, he's like, I don't care, Mom. You're not that way anymore. And there's a part of me that's saying, there's got to be something that you're mad about, and my youngest, to see him go through, his dad is now actively using, and that's who he's lived with before, and just to see all those changes that he's had to go through, it tears my heart apart to see him have to have those feelings and to be that young.
After he became sober, everything changed. That was also hard for the kids because now they had a new authority that they hadn't had in a long time. And so listening to what he would say was difficult, and just having to get him to the status of leader of the family again took a while, but now it's great. It feels healthy.
And there was a lot of forgiveness that I had to ask of him, and a lot of things I had to, also, me and him began to pray together. And I had to be able to sit and hear how he felt during these years. And to me, that's the hardest thing for a parent to have to hear, is to hear your child telling you things that you did to them and how they felt about it. It's very hard because then it's basically making you feel like you was a bad parent. you know, so no parent want to hear that. So I had to go through that so that in our relationship could be repaired again, and that we could share the relationship that we share now.
The one thing I can agree with that this lady said is nobody wants to hear that they're a bad parent. You've heard the expression, don't cry over spilt beer. I say, don't worry about how your drug and alcohol use has affected your kids. Don't ask them for information about that, and don't ask them for forgiveness. Just go on as things have always gone, and don't worry about it.
Some of the positive changes that I've seen from them living with me is my youngest is real angry and very withdrawn, and he's come out of that a little bit at a time. And to be able to tell me, because usually when he gets mad he closes up and won't talk, and now he can talk to me about those things, and to see him be excited about school and to be excited about things that he's learning to do, and it's just so cool to be able to share that with them, to really feel that excitement with them. Also, my oldest son he's doing, you know, there's a lot of things in school that he's doing well with, and just to be able to see them be a family together, because they weren't living together either. So, you know, there's a lot of challenges that you have to face of, you know, being a whole new life for them also, but just to see the love that they have for each other and for me has just been awesome.
My recovery has affected my relationship with my kids today in ways that it's just wonderful. In that first of all, I'm there more. I'm there for the little moments. See, when I was using, I would be there for birthdays. I would be there for the major events. I would eventually always get home at night or in the morning. But for the little things, the sitting outside on the front step and watching a butterfly land on a leaf, or blowing bubbles, or talking about how was your day, those things mean more than the big moments. They have meant more since I've been sober than the big moments. And those are the moments that I missed out on in the past. Those are moments that build relationships, that give you some unity, that give you a bond. So I've been able to, with a lot of work, bring those bonds and create new ones.
Things that changed was I started being truthful to them. If I told them that I was going to be there, I'd be there. If I told them we were going to do something, we'd do it. But the main thing is that it's no longer me saying that we're going to do something. It's them physically seeing that these things happen. And it's not just once here or once there, it's every day.
My relationship with my children has been the driving force for me to do this, and to do this the right way this time. I've gotten, both of them were taken away from me, and both of them live with me now and are going to stay living with me. You know, it's the best feeling to be able to teach them the right way to live, that they don't have to go to chemicals, and they don't have to go to drugs, and they don't have to go to their friends to feel good inside, but to be able to get that from God and to find themselves from God. That's the biggest honor that I have, is to be their mother and to show them that, instead of them growing up the way that I did and not knowing that there was a different way.
While it's clear that addiction damages our kids, it's just as clear that recovery begins the healing process. My hope is that you are motivated to give up drugs and alcohol to be the best parent you can be. To get worksheets for this video or watch other videos, go to slickrecovery.com.